we're going to continue solving equations, and you are going to be able to solve one step. That means you have to do one thing to get the variable by itself through multiplying and dividing today. So you're going to solve equations through multiplying and dividing. That means you either have to multiply or you have to divide to get the variable by itself. How I personally handle this, I read the equation aloud to myself. So I verbally state the operation that it is currently being used so I can identify the inverse. So this first one here, 8x equals negative 24, I'm verbally going to state the operation. This means 8 times x is negative 24. The inverse of times is to divide. And remember, we must maintain equality and balance, so you need to do it to both sides. So x is equal to a negative 3. I want you to take note how I showed division. I did not show division with a division symbol. I showed division with a division bar. Notice how messy it looks when you show it with a division symbol. I mean, it's still equivalent, however, it's not age appropriate. You need to show division with a division bar when you're doing algebra. Okay, the next one. This is negative 3 times y is negative 12. The inverse of timesing is dividing. So I'm going to divide through by negative 3. I'm going to do it to both sides of the equal sign to maintain equality. And you get y is a positive 4. Recall that what happens is the 8's canceled out on the first one. Here the negatives 3 cancel out, and all you are left with is that y. And then negative 12 divided by a negative 3 is positive 4. Okay, next one. 6 times t is negative 66. The inverse of times is to divide. So I'm going to maintain equality and balance and do it to both sides. And you get t equals negative 11. Okay? And our next one says 11 times m is 121. The inverse of times is to divide. Maintain balance and do it to both sides. The 11 cancels and you get m equals 121 divided by 11 is 11. Okay? And then next we have negative x divided by 5 is negative 30. Notice I stated aloud the operation I'm using. Negative x divided by 5 is negative 30. So the inverse of divide is to multiply, so I'm going to multiply by 5. And then I want to get rid of that negative, so I'm going to multiply by a negative 5. Maintain balance and do it to both sides of the equation. The 5 cancels, the negative cancels, and all I'm left with is the x. Negative 30 times negative 5 is a positive 150. And I'm done because x is all by itself. Okay, the next one is x divided by 9 is negative 25. The inverse of divide is to multiply, so I'm going to multiply both sides of the equation by 9 to maintain that balance. The 9's cancel. X is left equals negative 25 times 9. If you have 9 quarters, you have $2.25. It would be a negative. So negative 225. Okay, next one. We have negative x divided by 3 is negative 7.2. The inverse of divide is to multiply by 3. And then I also want to get rid of that negative, so I'm going to times both sides by a negative 3. Maintain the balance, times through by a negative 3. The 3's cancel, the negatives cancel, and you're left with x equals, and and then negative 7.2 times negative 3 is a positive 21.6. Okay, and again, just notice what I'm doing. What I'm doing here is saying the equation aloud, utilizing what operation so I can identify the inverse. X divided by 5 is 0.14. The inverse of divide is to multiply through by 5. So I'm going to do it to both sides to maintain that balance. The 5's cancel, and you get x is equal. You can go ahead and use a calculator for this unit, and you get 0.7. X equals 0.7. Okay. And if you look at the question on the left-hand side of your Cornell notes, it says, how do you know if you are going to divide or multiply to isolate a variable? If you're able to verbally answer this, this is more of a level 4 if you can identify it right away. Because there's a pattern that if you notice how the number is lined up, you'll know if you need to multiply or divide. All right, and the last one, utilizing multiplication, is fraction equations, or fraction coefficients is the more accurate term here. So what I want you to know about fraction coefficients, if there is a whole number, I want you to put a 1 on the bottom, or denominator. And then to get rid of a fraction, to undo it, to cancel it out, you multiply through by the reciprocal. And I want you to understand why we do that. Notice if I had 3 over 4, if I wanted to cancel the 3 and 4, I would times through by 4 over 3, because notice that it cancels the 4 out, and it cancels the 3 out, and you're left with just 1. So that's our goal when we're timesing through by a reciprocal. We're trying to cancel everything out. So first one, I have 10 equals negative 2/3 m. Put a 1 on my denominator. And then what I want to move is this one, the negative 2/3, because that's by my variable, and that's what I want all by itself. So in order to cancel it out, I need to multiply through by the reciprocal. So I'm going to do it, align it over here. So 3 over 2, and then I want to get rid of that negative as well, so I make it negative. And then I need to maintain balance, so I'm going to do it to the left side too. All right? And then I'm going to cross simplify. Top times top, negative 3 times 5 is negative 15. And the bottom is just 1, so I don't need to write it. And then look what happens. 3 cancels, 2 cancels, the negative cancels, and all I'm left with is m. Okay? Second one is easier than the first one, because you don't have that negative. Make a 1 on the denominator. What I want to get rid of is the 3/5. I want to get rid of that because that's what's by the variable. So I'm going to times through by 5 over 3. I'm going to do it to both sides because you have to maintain that balance. Cancel, 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 cancel. And you're left with x equals, and then I can cross simplify. Top times top, 2 times 5 is 10 over the bottom, but that's just 1. So it's x equals 10. Okay? The next one, negative 5 equals 5 over 9x. I'm going to go ahead and put a 1 on the denominator. I want to get rid of the 5 over 9 because that's by my x. So in order to get rid of 5 over 9, I need to times through by the reciprocal. I'm going to change my color here. So times 9 over 5. Maintain balance, do it to both sides. Cross simplify. 9 times negative 1 would just be negative 9 equals. Notice the bottom is just 1, so I didn't write the bottom down. Cancel. cancel. All I'm left with is x. Negative 9 equals x. Okay, and the last one. I have 1/5 x equals 8 over 3. I want to get rid of the 1/5 because that's by my variable. So I'm going to times through by the reciprocal, 5 over 1. Maintain balance, you have to do it to both sides. That cancels all that out, I'm left only with x. I can't cross simplify, so I just go top times top. 8 times 5 is 40. Over bottom times bottom, 3. And then turn it into a mixed number. 3 goes into 40, 13 times, 1 remains, 3 as the denominator. And that's your learning target for today.